Welcome to Quick Tech Talk, hosted by Michael Anderson and Daniel Sloan.
Hey folks, welcome to the Quick Tech Talk. Today we are joined by my co-host Daniel Sloan and guest Chris Myers, who is on the board of HerSpark as the strategy manager and is a senior manager at Cisco TAC. Daniel, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
As always, a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So to kick things off, Chris, could you tell us a little bit more about HerSpark?
Yeah. So HerSpark is a nonprofit organization, and the goal is to prepare young ladies for the future needs of the STEM industry. So what we do is we look to RTP-based businesses and we ask the question, what will you need 5 years from now? And we pull them into creating and developing neat opportunities to bring these young ladies in and educate them about what's needed and then also the path to do it. What we'll do is we'll give them the ability to see an end goal. So there was a really good quote. I can't tell you who said it. I don't recall, but it's, if you can see it, you can be it. And that's one of the mantras that we constantly push. If you could see it, you can be it. And we bring very, very knowledgeable ladies within the technical industry, within the biomedical industry, and all over in the STEM areas, and show the path that they took. And what's neat about it is it's not just the path, and it's not like, oh, this was the easiest thing in the world. No, there were some rocky steps, there were some bumps along the way, and some of the stories are just so inspiring, where they have a professor as an example, where the professor says, you know what, you probably shouldn't be in this industry. And that made them just light on fire and double down. And they're like, nope, I'm going to be amazing at it. And actually, that was one of the stories from one of the ladies who will now be one of the technical directors at Nike. Just outstanding. So there's a lot of really cool stories that we're sharing that are showing people the way and the path to a better life.
That's so well said. And from my own personal relationships with folks, not having that example sometimes limits what you dream and think is possible. So the fact that you get to connect with those folks and give younger women an example, I think is tremendous.
I love it.
One of the things I noticed when I was researching you, Chris, was that you are the only male member on the board of HerSpark. So it got me curious. Why do you think you were chosen for that position?
I am someone who likes to connect with people, and I like to lend guidance and mentor. Anytime I see someone who's struggling in an area, I like to run and jump in the fire with them. And people see that. And over a period of time, you build connections. And oftentimes someone will say, hey, you know, we're looking for somebody who could do X. And I try to be that X factor that people are looking for when they need help. So I had somebody who actually sat probably about 2 seats away from me in the tax center. And she mentioned that she was doing a design for a nonprofit organization who was going to be hosting a week-long event. It was called a summer summit. And in this week-long event, it's essentially like a free summer camp for girls to learn about STEM and all the different levels of STEM. And I love that stuff. So they came to me and they said, you know, hey, Chris, would you be able to help out? And over the week of doing the actual event, and then really the month before planning for everything and working with just some amazing, talented people at Cisco, we were able to put together a really cool event that was a week long, multiple different companies, everybody showing their strengths and then helping to build these girls' careers and future careers. So they saw my passion. They saw how much I love to I like to help. I like to help people. I used to be an engineer before the leadership role. And you know, when you fix something, you get that little feeling in your soul, that little bit of shine where you're like, I did it, right?
Yeah.
I found that when I was able to build people and help solve problems for people, I got more of a lasting spark in my soul. So I seek that out. And that's why I got into leadership. So over a period of time, they got to see how I work and how I like to give back and feed and pull people up. And they said, you know, hey, would you like to join us? So I was one of the first people on the HerSpark board. So Tess Bradford invited me to come and join in, and I've been with them for a little over a year now, almost 2.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so you've led and you're leading as an example. And so, what advice or guidance do you have for other men who are in the technology industry and how they can be a better support for women?
It's a good one.
Did we stump you? Throw your curveball on that question?
Oh, no, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, because one of the things that can be misinterpreted is if you run at someone and you try to fix a problem that maybe they don't want you to fix, and maybe they just want you to listen. And
Absolutely.
I've done it a bunch of times. I failed numerous times at not listening first. And I think a key aspect of it is listening first and understanding what people want. And then also giving gradual opportunities, and just taking some time and understanding what people want to achieve, and then lending in little bits of like, hey, what if you tried this? What if you tried this? What if you tried this? Because if you come too aggressive with, oh, all right, you need to sit down, we're going to lay out this plan, here's what we're going to do, and with anybody, that just never really works very well. So I think that's one of the challenges that people run into when they want to help somebody, they want to join in and provide a bit of insight and grow people. It's sometimes you may come across too strong. So first thing is listen and get a good solid understanding of what people really want, and then understand how they want to be helped, and then jump in and help any way you can in that manner. Another thing is continuously look for people's strengths. There's a saying, you're always looking to find new talent for your team, for your company. And anytime you meet someone, look for their strengths. Always be searching for their strengths, and sort of whisper in their ear, like, hey, you could apply your strength if you did this, or show them how they can help other people by leveraging that strength. So that would be my answer to that one.
Well said. And your
Yeah.
passion for helping and for helping through empathy and asking and really trying to deeply understand people, not just leading with the problem solving, but leading by seeking to understand is really a great insight and very powerful.
No, I echo that. And, something you just said made me think about our earlier conversation about, how, seeking to find people's strengths and trying to elevate them and lift them up. And, you were talking to us a little bit about Cisco's veteran incubator and their recruitment initiative. I'd love you to explain that and talk to our audience a little bit about that, because I think that's an amazing program that you're a part of.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by some amazing people who are big on taking action. So the way it started was we would do events in Cisco. We would go to Fort Bragg, we would go to Camp Lejeune or Lejeune, just depending on who you're talking to. And we would have events like a veteran career transition day. And what we would do is we would share information on paths. We would look at resumes and give insight and guidance. We would do mock interviews, which are really powerful. If just for everyone listening out there, before you do any interview for real, make sure you have about 4 or 5 people run you through a mock interview just to prepare you. So we would do a lot of this work, and one of our really awesome leaders at Cisco, Marty Martinez, asked the question, is like, hey, we're taking all this time and we're helping these people and we're finding some great talent, but are we hiring them? And it sort of stops, and people are like, oh, yeah, why aren't we doing that? So we already had a really cool program that would take amazing college grads and bring them into Cisco and run them through a boot camp and prepare them to be outstanding tech engineers. Kind of made sense to figure out a way to intersect those two programs. So
Interesting.
I worked with Jonathan Nichols and Carissa Carbone and Charles Armstrong, just a couple of great leaders, Chris Phillips, and we all worked together to figure out a way to turn this into a reality. And we had some really great people in HR work with us, and they helped to develop a path. It's a 20-week path that starts people off with focusing on getting your certification. So base level certification, CCNT, CCNA. And as they go through this program, they get Cisco provided training that they can access, and they learn this information and they get prepared with the theory and the technology insight to be able to next take the step to become a troubleshooter and start taking on the role of attack engineer. So after they pass these series of gating events and milestones, they get the opportunity to join in with the cohort of college graduates and go through the same several month program, which is now called CXA, for the Cisco TAC experience. So it gives people the ability to continue working the job that they're working, go through a study program and learn the Cisco technology for free.
Wow.
And then come and join us in our college ramp up program.
That's amazing. I built many companies in the staffing industry, and being a veteran myself, I always struggled with trying to educate companies of like, listen, this guy just isn't a basic rifleman. Like, look at the job he did, look at the motor pool he ran, look at all the skills, look, he led a battalion of people to do this. I mean, do you have project managers that have led that many people? And, unfortunately, if they don't really have a program to kind of process this amazing talent and do what you guys are doing, it's tough for them. So I was just curious, have you heard of any other companies like that are doing anything similar to what Cisco's doing?
Yeah, so years back, the answer certainly would have been a no, but now you see more and more companies understanding that there's a huge amount of value in our veteran community, and it is well worth the investment of time and effort and resources to help them see. It's like, yeah, exactly like you said. I was doing an interview and I asked somebody, it's like, hey, this is a pretty stressful job. How do you deal with stress? He's like, well, my other job, I was flying a helicopter and they were shooting guns at me and I would land and everything would be
Yeah.
fine.
They have a different perspective on stress. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of leads me to my next question. One of the things that I always had to kind of coach up vets and coming out is saying, listen, you're going to be shocked because there's no formation. People don't have military discipline. You can't just walk up to someone and start screaming in their face, why the hell did you leave this thing? And, you got to be really sensitive to people. And, if you had to give advice to hiring managers that are bringing in vets, what kind of advice would you give them to help prepare them to deal with the men and women that come out that, again, are used to being shot at or being in these different kind of environments and not your, let's say, politically correct corporate environment?
Yeah, I think that could possibly be a culture shock, and helping people get ready for it in the just continual gradual conversations.
Right.
And typically most companies, when you come in, there's code of business conduct, there's
Right.
there's ways that you have to conduct yourself, and in essence it's a process and procedure.
Right.
So that's pretty applicable. It works pretty well. I think another thing is just having a conversation saying, hey, everybody comes from different experiences and everybody's shaped in a different crucible. And you come out and this is your value, and I need you to focus on your value and not necessarily someone's lack. And I challenge you to find their value, and you get them to motivate, not in the, your gym buddy yelling at you, do one more, but the motivation of like, yeah, you're doing great. That type of thing is pretty helpful, I find.
Certainly, if kind of the underlying theme of all this, if you think about it, her spark with females and the diversity they bring, people that come out of the military, the experience they bring, and then, they're getting now exposure to how enterprises run their organizations and the processes and things they do. When you start bringing all these different points of views and vast experiences, it just makes everybody as a team so much better. So no, I think that was well said. Michael, you got anything else for Chris? I'm done with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, this bleeds through in everything that you say, Chris, that you're a unique combination of passion and compassion for people and serving people. And we need more leaders like you in the workplace. And so, just as a few parting thoughts, what guidance or advice do you have for leaders who do have to deliver and hit different metrics, KPIs, OKRs? but need to do that with a group of people. And how do you lead that group of people in a passionate and compassionate way?
So there was a really good book, and it's a military book. I'm not a veteran, but I have a lot of respect for anyone that is. But there's a really good book. It's called Extreme Ownership, and it was written by some Navy SEALs. If you get an opportunity, get the audiobook because it's awesome. But one of the things that they focus on is when you ask someone to do something, it's on you to communicate the why and the value of doing it. So too often it's easy for a company to say, you know, this is our number and this is why we have to hit it, or this, and we're going to hit it. And either you hit it or you don't. You need to be able to show people, okay, this is the value of why we're going to do this. And I need you to tell me what's the best way to help you see the value. What are the things that you need to know about this project to see why we're doing it? Or really, if you go Socratic, forgive me, if you go Socratic and say, why do you think we're doing this? What do you see as the value? So help people to find the value of what you're doing and help people to find the value of the KPI. It's not just a CX set is everything. It's well, you need to make sure that the customer's happy so they come back. You want to be the reason that they buy from your company. You want to be the reason that they purchase Cisco or Amazon or whoever the company is. You want your service to be so good that you are the reason that people come back.
Well said.
Well said. Well, I think that's all I've got for you. I really appreciate your time, Chris. Thank you for your insight and for your care.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for coming on. This was great. I love learning about these kind of organizations, and I'm so glad that you're taking the time out to support them and give them your wisdom and guidance. That goes a long ways.
Well, so I've certainly done some legwork, and I'll tell you some other people if you get an opportunity. I'd love for you to be able to pull in a Sean Ritzman. He's one of the passionate veterans at Cisco. He's just amazing, and certainly one of the great organizers who look for ways to help fellow vets out. If you have an opportunity, he's outstanding. If you want to find out more about VTIP, Angie Coolidge and Sarah Altenhouse both run the program now. And then as far as her Spark, the current president is Tess Bradford, and she would love to talk to you.
Certainly. Well, that's great. So how many Marines working at Cisco? Just curious.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. One of my great friends, Chris Phillips, he's a gunnery sergeant, 30 years, and master gunnery sergeant.
Well, master guns. All right. Nice.
He's no joke. He's no joke. And
30 years. That's a career, buddy. That's you're committed when you do 30. Because 20, you can get your pension and go out and get another job. But if you stay 30, you love it. So good for you to have him.
If he could have stayed longer, he would still be there. The guy's amazing. He's one of my mentors, and he makes me better.
Well, good. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, good stuff. Well, Chris, actually, after your original response on my leadership question, I'm a little curious for more insight. Is there any other general leadership advice that when people come to you and ask for help, maybe they're a first-time manager, maybe they're a veteran entering the workplace, who's led hundreds of people but is looking for new guidance in this new environment, what's generally your go-to wisdom that you share with them?
I like to make sure that when people communicate that they own the other person's understanding of the communication. So it's important to be clear in your communication. It's important to ensure that when you have a message that people understand it, because if you're leading people and you ask them to go to a specific goal, but you don't help them understand the path or what the goal is and why it's important, then you'll fail, and you need to take ownership of that. So having complete ownership of everything that you can control is important, and not necessarily micromanaging, but just realizing that if someone on your team fails, the buck stops with you. It's your fault. And you need to own how to fix that, whether it be asking how to communicate better with that person, how to show up better, how to explain something in multiple different levels. I think that's a key aspect of leadership.
Probably
Well said.
even more important in this remote world, right? To where you can't just walk down to the cube and tap somebody on the shoulder and have a sidebar and figure it out. I mean, it's even more important to have that. So yeah, I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
Well said. Well, Chris and Daniel, thank you both so much for the time. And Daniel, thank you for serving. And Chris, in your own way, thanks for serving the communities that you do.
Glad to be of use.
Appreciate it, guys. A lot of fun.
All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you for streaming this episode of Quick Tech Talk with Michael Anderson and Daniel Sloan.